I had no idea how sick my dad really was. He never told me the full extent of his health issues, even when asked. That night, I took him and Leonard back home, made sure everything was good, make sure they were settled, and told them to call me if they needed anything. The next day, I went right back to work thinking everything was going to be okay and get back to normal. Over the following weeks, my schedule was so crazy. Between taking my dad to his doctor's appointments and working a 24-hour shift, I barely had time to breathe. I'd come home, shower, knock out some homework for my bachelor's degree, and crash into bed, just trying to keep everything afloat. Fast forward, I was completely spent that particular week from work and everything else going on. I remember choosing to rest on the couch in the living room on the 15th. My body was so just done. My brother later mentioned that he tried calling me that afternoon after realizing that my dad wouldn't wake up. The strange thing is I didn't hear the phone ring at all, so I hadn't answered. I was in this deep, almost foggy sleep, and at some point, I vaguely remember hearing my phone. But it was like I was stuck in a sleep stupor, like this heavy weight was keeping me down on the couch, preventing me from waking up. Eventually, I managed to wake up, saw the missed calls from my brother, and I called him right back. "Leonard, what's wrong?" I asked. He said, "It's dad. He won't wake up." My heart sank. I rushed over to my dad's house, went straight to where he was, and when I saw him lying there unresponsive, I immediately told my brother to call 911. Then I started performing CPR. I always have to pause here because that always gets me that I had to perform CPR on my own father. As they started, as I as the ambulance came, when they assessed him, they pronounced him dead on arrival. They told us he had been gone for quite some time. As they started doing what they needed to do, we stepped outside to answer questions from the other paramedics. And then, as they were talking to me and my brother, they rolled my dad's body past us. Jesus, is this really happening to me? I felt myself go into shock mode and take charge mode all at the same time. I was the one who had to make the call to my siblings to tell them dad had just passed away. Thank you for joining me on the From Grief to Purpose podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different. We're going to talk about the ups and downs of healing.
I've got something to say. I've been through some things, a whole lot of things, the kind of things that left me in pain. The pain left a hole in my soul and almost took me out, but I got a purpose, from grief to purpose. I am not defined by my pain.
Today, we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to go into the 8 stages of just like the ups and downs of healing. Okay. So today I want to just have a leave you with some tips, especially if you're dealing with a loss, you've dealt with a loss, and you're still having a little bit of difficulty processing what it was you just went through. Like I shared with you a little bit of what I read in the book about losing my father. And when they had rolled my father's body past me, all I could say was, Jesus, is this really happening to me? Like, is this really happening to us again? Like, I could not um process it in that moment in my mind that this was actually happening. So we're going to talk about some moments that you should consider or you might want to consider along your healing journey. Okay. So I'm going to have my looking towards this way. So if you see me looking this way, I'm looking at my notes. So I want to make sure I get everything detailed and accurate just for us so that we can make sure that we're healing accordingly. Now, these aren't stages, they're experiences that often repeat. overlap, resurface unexpectedly, right? So the goal here is not to rush through them, but to recognize them so you can give yourself grace when they show up. So, and what does giving yourself grace look like? That means do not beat yourself up. Do not give yourself a tough time because you're feeling this particular way or you're experiencing this in this particular season of your life. Just give yourself grace and go through it. You're human. Remind yourself that you're going to have emotions. It is okay. All right. So let's start with the first one. Number one, you feel fine and then you don't. Have you ever felt fine and then you don't? I've definitely been there where, one moment, right, you're laughing, you're being productive, you're having a good time, you're probably going, to join friends for brunch or something like that. You're thinking that you're okay, and then out of nowhere, something triggers your grief, right? Something has triggered you. Whatever that was, the trigger just brought all of the emotions back, right? So the truth check that we are going to want to just let you know about that particular when that happens, it doesn't mean you're going backwards, right? It means you're still healing. Grief isn't gone. It's just quieter sometimes, That's what triggers do, right? They bring up these emotions within us that are there already and they resurface those emotions. They resurface that memory. So, but just remember that does not mean that you're going backwards. It just means that you're still healing. All right. So number two, you're tired of being strong, like where is your soft place for you to land? Do you have a soft place where you can just fall apart, right? Because, if you are a strong type of person naturally, everyone, always says how strong you are, but inside, you are worn out because you have not allowed yourself to break down. You have not allowed yourself to allow your support group or your support circle, or maybe even, allowed yourself to talk to a therapist or a grief coach like myself about what it is that you're experiencing, what you're going through, and how you can work through it. So, our truth moment and check about this is going to be truth isn't about always keeping it together, right? It's about continuing even when it's hard, laying aside our pride, laying aside the fact that, yes, we need help. I need to talk to someone, and it's okay, right? We all need to talk to someone at some point in our life. So whether it's a coach, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a friend, reach out and talk, vent, whatever it is that you need to do, get it off of your chest so that you can make sure that you're taking those necessary healing steps properly. Okay. I don't want you to keep and have all that stuff bottled in on the inside because it is not healthy to bottle up your emotions. All right. Number three, you compare your healing to others. You wonder why they're smiling, right? Why is she smiling? Why is he smiling? He just went through the same thing that I went through. They're posting pictures, they've moved on and you're still stuck. Don't compare your journey to somebody else. Everybody's journey is 100% different. Again, right? The grief process, if you've heard it, it's not linear. It's not a straight line. That means there are going to be ups and downs, ebbs and flows of this grieving process. When you have lost someone, it could be, you're grieving or mourning for a week, 2 weeks, a month. A month may turn into 3 months. 3 months may turn into six. Six may turn into a year. A year could turn into 5 years. You don't know because it's individualized and you don't know how, that loss is going to affect you. But what you do know is that it's important to take each day, day by day, and to make sure that you're processing each moment that you're experiencing in a healthy way. So again, remember that healing has no timeline, right? Don't feel like you're behind, like you should be experiencing something that like your friend experienced. You watch them go through a loss and they just seem to have bounced back. You are not that person. You are your own individual. So you process how you process your loss, okay? You're right where you are, and that's all that matters. So stop comparing yourself to other people. Number 4, you isolate, right? If you've isolated before, when you've lost a loved one, you've experienced yourself moving into this space of, I don't want to talk to anybody, right? I don't want to get any text messages. I don't want coming anyone coming over to see me. And it begins to go into long periods of time, like a weeks at times, like past the 2-week mark, we're going into a month. That's isolation, unhealthy isolation. This is, it's not good, right? Solitude is at times okay, right, for a season, but when you let silence become like your prison, that's where you can go into some dark moments. So be mindful that you're not isolating, that you're allowing other people in to your life to help you, to support you along your grieving process. Okay. All right. Number 5, you wrestle with God, right? This is something that can, take place. It when you're going through your mourning season, you're grieving, you may wrestle with God, right? You may have your questions. You may have wanted to know, or have asked, or asking, God, where are you? Right? Why did this happen? Listen, God is not offended by your questions, right? He knows that you're grieving. He knows you just endured a severe loss. So he wants you to be honest, right? He wants you to be honest with your emotions. Be raw, be real, be honest. Talk to him. Trust. God is a God that wants to take care of you. He wants to love you. He wants to support you through this particular process. He can handle the weight, of your heart. Trust, right? He's God, so he can handle it. So talk to him, be honest, be open, communicate. It's healthy. All right, our next one is, you feel guilty for feeling better. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, right? When you catch yourself laughing again, right? Smiling, maybe even dreaming. And that guilt just begins to creep in, like, am I supposed to be feeling like this? Like, I don't know. Because I don't want to feel like this, because they're not here any longer to laugh with me, to, move forward with me. Listen, joy does not mean you've forgotten about them. You moving on does not mean you've forgotten about them and who they were and the impact that they have um, in your life. It just means that you're learning to live with the loss, right? And not without the love that you experience with that person, because you have to learn how to live, with the loss. How do you move on, right? When we lost our mother in 95 to breast cancer, we all had to figure it out, like every one of us, from my father to my other 3 siblings, because there's 4 of us, and we had to figure out, how do we move on. A lot of that, was, us not honestly having the slightest idea, like, what do we do. I know my sister experienced something different, as far as like emotions and processing. I experienced, a different experience from what she experienced, but ultimately, we both had a total identity crisis. All of us did, each just experiencing it in a different way. Like, for myself, I had to learn how to do life, become a woman, because at the time I had just turned 17. I've shared this before. But now, without my mother, what is it that I'm supposed to do now? Like, who am I supposed to become? What, how am I supposed to shape myself? Like, who is supposed to teach me to be a woman the rest of the years of my life? Like, sometimes your identity, you lose yourself a little bit, because you're like, a part of you, it feels like, when we lost our mother, it felt like we had lost a part of ourselves. And that's a very real experience. When you lose someone that close to you, especially a parent, you have a sense of identity loss. So don't feel crazy. It's a real, very, very real thing, and you have to regain that. You have to, find your way to yourself and not lose yourself mentally, if that makes sense. All right. So again, just remember that Your joy does not mean that you've forgotten about them. It just means that you're learning to live with that particular loss, right? Because we have to live, we have to move forward, we have to continue to live our lives and continue on with this life journey, right? Just because they're gone, it does not mean that you stop living because you are still here. So you have to continue to live. You just remember the love that you share with them, keep it close to your heart, cherish it, and take that with you and let that all that pain, because it's going to be a painful process, but let your self um allow yourself to release that pain. I always say release it to God and let him transform that pain into something beautiful. Okay. All right. Our next one. You try to numb the pain. Have you ever tried to numb your pain? And if so, ask yourself right now, what are you doing to numb your pain? Like, have you ever, do you've overworked, maybe you're an overworker, somebody that works through their pain. You scroll through social media because you don't want to um, face the reality of what's really taking place in your life. You fill your time with everything but the real issue, right? And the real issue, for example, I'll reflect back on myself. I lost my mother. I lost my father. That is the issue, right? So something I can't avoid, right? Because they're not here, right? I can't obviously go to their home, knock on their door and say, hey, mom, hey, dad, you guys want to go get something to eat? That's not my reality anymore, right? So I have to face the issue. I have to face the fact that they are no longer here on this earth. Is it painful? Yes. Is it hurtful? Absolutely. Do I still have my triggers? Yes. But that's me facing the reality of, okay, they're not here any longer. How do I process this? How do I live a healthy life? How do I grieve them in a healthy way and not allow myself to go to dark places that are unhealthy? How do I live my life without them? So now, with this particular um, this area here, right? Let's remember that when we do numb, right, that pain, numbing delays healing, right? It delays our healing process. And numbing again can look many different ways to include, alcohol, sexing it out, or just finding whatever distraction that's trying to pull your attention away from the fact that the loss occurred. It doesn't stop the pain. Remember that, okay? It does not stop the pain. It's just a short, temporary fix, mask, something to distract you for just a moment, okay? Because that pain is still there. Those that hurt is still there. So it needs to be addressed. So it just is going to unaddress, it just buries it deeper, right? And it will resurface when you do not tackle it, when you don't handle it. And it's not easy, right, to face the facts, the real issues. Not easy to face, you know what? I need to talk about this loss. I need to talk to someone. I need to deal with it. It's painful. But I promise you, the more and more that you begin to talk to someone, that can assist you, and I would suggest, especially when you're at certain phases of life, um, talk to a therapist, right? Go to if you're ready to move forward in a positive, healthy direction, that's when you want to talk to a coach or a therapist. We do two different things, coaches and therapists. And I'll share my website where you can read a little bit more detail about that. Because a coach and a therapist operate differently in different roles of the healing journey. But definitely talk to somebody so that you can process what you're going through um, in a healthy way. In a healthy way. All right. So the next one is you find peace and you feel different, right? So you're not the same, right? After losing someone. Grief, it changes you. First of all, the loss has changed you. Your grieving process changes you. You even, you walk different, you talk different, you smile differently, you act differently with you know, your loved ones, your friends, right? You are just a different person now. After experiencing this, you think differently, right? Your perspective, your life perspective and your world outlook is just different now. It is what it is, right? It's a fact, right? And um the thing about this is, that's not a loss, that's growth, right? The fact that, and I'm talking about the fact that you think differently now, right? You're moving differently. All of that is not a loss. All of that is you still growing, right? It's growing. Because you are evolving and you have to evolve. So when you're in, and I'm saying that in the context of, you're not the same, right? You're starting to transition. You're starting to express yourself a little bit differently. Now you're learning language as you're going through your particular healing journey. You're able to articulate yourself a little bit better because you're going through this process, taking those steps to heal properly. That is you evolving, okay, into this new version of you. So just let it be. Leave yourself alone. Process how you're processing. Yes, you're a little bit different now, right? Who wouldn't be after the loss that you have just endured? So just let it be and just make sure you're taking those steps day by day towards healthy routes of healing through this process. Take the step that you need to take in order to um, become effectively the healthy version that you need to be able to operate in your day in and day outs of life as it pertains to you. So, what does healing actually require? I want to leave you with this. Healing, it isn't about arriving, it's about becoming, as we were discussing, right? So it definitely requires radical honesty. Like you got to be real, you have to be raw about your emotions, you have to be honest about where you exactly are. So say how you feel, right? I'm upset today. I'm angry today. I'm sad today. And not just to others. Again, talk to God. He is there for to hear, he hears you anyway, right? So talk to him, express to him how you're feeling. You want to definitely create intentional space. So don't rush to fill the silence, right? Sometimes healing speaks loudest in the stillness, even though that silence can be uncomfortable sometimes, especially if you've endured the loss of, say, a spouse. And that space was a space that the two of you kept, the two of you maintained that space. It's the two of you built, and now that person is no longer there and it's just you. So that quietness can sometimes feel uneasy. It can feel, like it's just, awkward to be there. But oftentimes, don't ignore the silence, don't avoid the silence. Sometimes you just need to be still, take the moment for what it is. Don't ignore it, don't rush it. Just be silent in the moment. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to pray, pray. If you need to talk it out, talk. And I'm saying talk out loud, right? Talk to God, talk, journal. But just make sure that you do not rush to feel the silence with distractions and noise and, turning on the TV, turning on music. No, just be silent and be in that space for just a moment. So, a safe support system is another good thing, is what it takes to heal, right, effectively. You definitely want to have a safe support system. You don't, need everybody in your support system because not everybody is going to understand what you're going through. Not everybody is going to have the language to assist you or the capacity to even show up for you. So do not, you don't need everyone. And then when people don't have the language or those, friends of yours that don't have the language or the capacity to support you in your healing journey, don't judge them, get upset with them. Sometimes you got to put boundaries on people and put, people in their perspective, boxes of your life, but they just don't, they don't have the capacity, they don't understand because they probably haven't been through what you have been through, and some people have not encountered a loss that yet, so they don't understand how to, what it is that you may need. They don't understand how to talk to you. So now, with that though, you do need, you want to have someone that's not going to judge you, that's going to be empathetic, that's going to, you know, um, have those, is able to have those intimate moments, someone that you feel safe with, when you're seeking your support system or pulling from your friends to see, okay, who can I put in my support group? Who are those people that I can call on and that I know I can trust, that without a shadow of a doubt, I can pick up the phone or I can just say, hey, I need to talk to you. Let's go get something to eat so that you can talk. Make sure that you have those people that you can definitely trust with your emotions, where you are currently with your words, and they're just there to support you and to be empathetic, to play that support role for you. So, all right. So, another thing is you want to let go of perfection, right? You will have setbacks in this journey. You are definitely going to have some setbacks. You'll have amazing days, as we discussed before, right? As I mentioned before, you're going to have some very heavy days, right? It's all a part of the process, right? Again, as it relates to losing a loved one, right? The ups and downs, it can be all over the place. And I mean all over the place. All right. Like again, my mother has been gone since 95, right? I have had my days since 95, okay? And it is 2025, right? And I still get my triggers. I still have certain emotions. Are they as deep and heavy as they once were initially, right? When she first passed away? No, right? Same as with my father when he passed, right? They're not as deep, right? The days get better, you heal, but that also comes from me talking it out, right? Me healing, right? Me seeing myself take step backwards. Okay, now what do I need to do to move forward, right? Me processing it out, me crying it out, me praying it out, me going to and talking to those people that I can trust, or that those whether that's friends or family, or a mentor or therapist, right? It took me to do all the necessary steps to make sure that my healing box was set to help and assist me transition to a place where I know that I'm like, okay, I can move in this direction. I feel, the ability of being okay with moving in the direction that I'm going, and, still dealing with some of the areas that I'm dealing with. But you definitely are going to have setbacks. So do not have this perfected idea of what grieving is supposed to look like, what your process is supposed to look like. You're supposed to have been over it by now. It's an individual process. Again, it could be a stretched out process. You could be grieving for a month, or you can be grieving for 10 years, but just understand that it's okay. You're human. Don't be so hard on yourself. And this next one, you got to give yourself grace, right? Again, give yourself grace, grace for yourself, grace for others who may not understand what you're going through, right? And sometimes giving yourself grace can be easy, but sometimes giving others grace, especially people that know you, people that have known you for years, that can be hard sometimes, especially if they're not showing up for you in the way that you feel like they should be supportive, they should be empathetic, and they're not doing that part. Just understand that they just may not have the capacity, they may not have the language. They may not be able to support you in that way. All right. And whatever you decide to do with that, as far as, that friendship is concerned or those people are concerned, I would suggest just don't take the negative route. You don't have to end the friendship, unless it's just something toxic taking place with those friends. But just understand they may not know. They just don't have the capacity to, support you in the way that you need to be supported. And that should tell you need to find that circle, those professionals that can assist you along your journey, especially trained therapists, because that's what they're trained to do. They are trained to walk you through your particular process. Okay. So now, as we go along, right, I want to just wrap up and just say, I don't know, where you are in your healing journey right now. Maybe you're in the middle of one of those low moments. Maybe you're afraid to admit you're still hurting. Maybe you are finally seeing the lights. Maybe you're feeling, like you're unsure of what to do next. Wherever you are, I just want you to know that I see you. Okay. And then more importantly, God sees you. Like this is again, it's a process. Make sure you give yourself grace. It is not easy, but you're definitely not behind in your journey. If you're trying to compare yourself to others, stop comparing yourself to others. You're not weak. So if you cry, you are not weak, especially for my men out there. If you are crying and you are a man and you feel like, people are making you feel weak because you're a man and you're crying, crying is a human emotion. God gave it to you for a reason. So cry, okay? Jesus wept in the Bible, okay? And he was a man. So if he can cry, you can cry. You're not broken, right? You've experienced something that makes you feel like you are breaking, but you are not broken. And just understand that you're becoming, right? This grieving, shapes you into a whole different person, right? Because it's something significant that happened. It was it could have been something traumatically significant that happened, the loss that you endured. So don't take that lightly. Just understand that there are steps to this process. The grieving process is not linear, right? It's not a straight, cute little perfect line, right? It's not that perfect little pretty highlight reel that, people like to run on social media, that everything is perfect and everything is great and I'm pretty every single day. No, that's not what grieving looks like. It is a hot mess sometimes. So it is okay for you to be a hot mess, right? Sometimes is okay for us to be a hot mess sometimes and verbalize that you are not okay. All right. All right, so you guys, listen. If you want to share your journey, I want you to connect with me, and you can send me an email. I'm going to leave it down in the description where you can send your emails. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I will try to answer your questions to the best of my ability. If you need any support, if you are looking for a therapist or a mental wellness expert, I'm also wanting you to go to my directory. I'm going to leave that in the description as well, to where you can find great therapists to connect and network with. All right. Also, if you're interested in doing your own podcast, I use Riverside. So please be sure to also look at the description link, to where if you want to get your story out there, your own voice out there, Riverside is a great platform to utilize to get your podcast out there. All right. So you guys, listen, if this episode helps you, please by all means share it with someone that is on their particular healing journey as well. And be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, don't forget to, heal and take your time in doing so. All right. So thank you so much, you guys. Bye.
But in time you will heal and you'll grow from grief to purpose. What helps me to continue? What keeps me sane? All I know is there's something greater calling me. God has a plan and a purpose for my